Welcome to Robertson Fox Stories. These reflections are written for decision-makers navigating both business success and personal fulfillment. We're glad you're here. There was a moment recently in one of my group sessions that stayed with me. We were midway through the group session when the conversation shifted. There wasn't a dramatic turning point or a single breakthrough moment, just a subtle change in tone that you only really notice when you're paying attention. We had been exploring performance, what drives it, what sustains it, and what begins to erode it over time. Then one of my group members paused and said, almost in passing, "I think I've lost a bit of my mojo." The usual themes surfaced: pressure, responsibility, pace, and the constant demand for decisions. This is familiar territory for any leader. There was a ripple of recognition around the table. No one rushed to respond, yet everyone understood exactly what he meant. These were leaders running strong businesses, delivering results, leading capable teams. From the outside, everything worked. From the inside, something felt different. There comes a point in leadership where experience takes over. Decisions are made quickly, patterns become familiar, and the role is carried out with a level of competence that has been hard-earned over time. From the outside, it looks like mastery. From the inside, it can begin to feel like repetition. The energy that once came from challenge and growth softens. The pace remains, the responsibility remains, and the outcomes continue, yet the sense of engagement begins to flatten. Leadership becomes something you execute rather than something you experience. The conversation turned when we explored a simple idea. Once the fundamentals are in place and the business is stable, performance is no longer driven by necessity. It is driven by something far less tangible and far more powerful, a sense of aliveness. Not success in the traditional sense, nor achievement measured on a scoreboard, but something more internal. Energy, presence, engagement, and a feeling that you are fully in what you are doing, rather than moving through it on instinct. When that is present, leadership has a different quality. Conversations sharpen, decisions carry intent, and relationships deepen. When it is absent, even strong performance can feel flat. What struck me in that moment was how quickly the group could recognize it once it had been named. Each leader could place themselves on a scale without needing to say it out loud. Where is my energy right now? Where am I leading on instinct rather than intention? Where has familiarity replaced curiosity? This is where the real work begins, because the absence of aliveness rarely shows up in results first. It shows up in how the role is experienced, and over time that experience shapes everything else. What followed was one of those conversations that only happens in a room of peers. No one was looking for a formula. They were looking for something more honest. There is a well-established idea in performance psychology that human motivation shifts once basic needs are met. What sustains high performance at that level is no longer external reward or pressure, but intrinsic drivers such as meaning, connection, and a sense of vitality. Research in self-determination theory highlights that when people feel energized, connected, and purposeful, their engagement and performance increase significantly. Aliveness sits at the center of this. It is not something you find by stepping away from the business, it is something you generate within it. It shows up when your thinking is stretched, when you are surrounded by people who meet you at your level, and when you are working towards something that matters beyond the immediate. Energy does not appear in isolation. It is created through connection, through meaning, and through growth. When those elements are present, leaders feel engaged. When they are missing, even the most capable leader can find themselves operating on autopilot. Once the group could see it, the question became simple. What would move the number? Not in theory, but in practice. For some, it meant seeking out conversations that challenged their current thinking. For others, it meant reconnecting with the part of the business that originally excited them. For a few, it meant acknowledging that they had been carrying too much for too long without the right level of support. There was no single answer, only a shared understanding that energy is not something to wait for. It is something to lead. By the end of the session, nothing had changed externally. The businesses were the same, and the challenges remained. Yet the leaders were experiencing them differently. The room felt sharper, more engaged, more present. Because once you recognize that performance is not just about what you do, but how you show up, the focus shifts. Leadership stops being something you manage. It becomes something you experience. And sometimes it begins with a simple, honest reflection. What would bring me back to life in my leadership right now? If this story stayed with you, you'll find more reflections at robertsonfox.com. Until next time, thank you for listening.